Hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of INDSA Podcast 2.0. Here on INDSA Podcast, we strive to inspire everyone to choose the food that brings the good, as well as to dive into nutrition and dietetics community to know more about it. Here, I'm your host today, Kia Ning, and we have two of our lovely co-hosts for today, Jin An and Jai.
Hello.
Welcome. So in today's episode, we will be sharing knowledge and experience as relevant to our topic today, diet and mental health, eating disorder. So before we start off, the reason I come up with the title of today's episode is because of me myself actually struggles with confidence, and I used to worry about my body image and tend to restrict myself from eating. I know it sounds so wrong as a dietetics student to behave in this way, but thanks a lot to my friends around me who always lift me up whenever I need it, so my condition doesn't get worse. So, as body dissatisfaction usually happens to me, I've searched up online and found that it could be one of the risk factors that leads to eating disorder. To begin with our topic today, what eating disorder actually is. So it is a severe and persistent disturbance to eating behavior that is characterized by three main eating patterns, including restrictive eating patterns, consuming large amount of foods in short period of time, and purging, also known as eliminate calories through vomiting, laxatives, and any other harmful chemicals used. So here, let's talk about what is and isn't true about eating disorders. So first of all, when we talk about eating disorders, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
For me, eating disorder is like a person who have abnormal or disturbed eating patterns that show physical or psychological symptoms, such as people eating non-edible substance, which is, I think it's pica. Yeah, something like that.
Similarly with Jai, actually, I think it's generally abnormal eating behaviors, and oftentimes it's coupled with mental health issues as well. Yeah.
So usually when people talk about eating disorders, the first thing that comes to their mind is restrictive eating patterns. And I believe this is the common perception people have of eating disorders. So to clarify it, eating disorders actually includes binging, which is known as consuming large amount of food in a short period of time, and purging, as I mentioned earlier, eliminate calories through vomiting, laxatives, excessive exercise, and use of harmful chemicals. So here goes another misunderstanding of eating disorders. So from my perceptions, these false beliefs such as eating disorders are not serious, they are just lifestyle choices, and it's all about vanity. It usually happens on older generation. So how do you guys think?
In my opinion, I think other than the older generation, some of the younger generation are still unaware about eating disorder. Some younger generation even glorify eating disorders. I can give an examples. Last time I went to a church camp, and some of my friends I met there tends to follow or mimic our senior who has eating disorder, because maybe she has a skinnier body or prettier
Figure.
Yeah, figure.
I agree. I think it could be the Asian beauty standard, where it's more lean and then like on the skinnier side, and it's often glorified and understated in a sense. Like back then in high school, when me and my friends back then talked about eating disorder, they don't really understand what the problem with eating disorder is. Like they would say like, oh, if you have eating disorder, then why not just eat? Like,
Yeah.
I think they don't understand that it's also a mental health issue. It's not a choice. You know? Yeah.
It's like they tend to think that the way to treat eating disorders is just by having them to eat and think it's their choice to not to eat. But no, a person with an eating disorders experience severe disturbance to their behavior around eating, exercising, and is usually related self-harm because of distortion of their thoughts and emotions. And when they think it's all about vanity or lifestyle choices to have eating disorders, people usually think that if you're underweight with restrictive eating patterns, it means that you have eating disorders. Well, to clarify this, most of them with eating disorders have healthy and raised BMI. But for those with anorexia bulimia, results in weight loss, and you can't actually tell a people just by looking at their weight alone.
Yeah, that's very true. And plus, everyone just have different body types, as mentioned in our previous episode on diet culture. If you haven't, you should check it out. But yeah, some people are naturally thinner, while some people have more curves naturally. So it's really not a determinant of one's health. Yeah.
Yeah, I also agree with what you guys said just now. And I also think that since there are a lot of different types of eating disorder, then people may not weight the same as they come from different types of eating disorder, such as some people have binge eating disorder. They will tends to have a more bigger size body, and some like anorexia nervosa, they will have slimmer body. They will be skinnier. Yeah, so we can't just tell if people have eating disorder based on their weight.
Yeah, and also I think a lot of people with eating disorder, they disguise the fact that they have eating disorder by maintaining a normal body weight. And then like maintaining like a very normal body size, but so you can't tell by just looking at them, but they're actually doing a lot of things to keep
in shape.
Keeping shape,
Yeah,
like
shape.
the standardized shape.
Yeah, the standardized shape. Whereas I guess maybe for anorexia nervosa, they would tend to be thinner. Yeah. But like I said again, some people maybe they are just born
Born
thinner.
in
Yeah.
thinner, the
Yeah.
figure. It's all about genetics actually.
Yeah.
So before filming this podcast, from what I asked around people around me, they usually confuse disorder eating with eating disorders. So let's have a small question here. Can I hear from you guys the difference you can tell between eating disorder and disorder eating?
I think disorder eating comes before eating disorder, because for a person to be diagnosed with eating disorder, he or she needs to meet certain criteria or signs and symptoms of like eating disorder. Yeah, so disorder eating is more like maybe your mindset. You are slightly into that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I think for disordered eating, it's sort of like a precursor for eating disorder, like as mentioned by Jai, but perhaps it isn't severe enough to the point where it greatly deteriorates the person's quality of life.
Yeah.
So here, let's make it simple and clear. What I heard from Jai and Gina is kind of like disorder eating comes before eating disorder. Because like disorder eating is actually a descriptive phrase, while eating disorder is actually a diagnosis. But it does not mean that disorder eating is not serious, since it may lead to eating disorder as well. So as we focus on eating disorders today, they compose of three main widely known eating disorders, include anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, and other eating disorders. So to differentiate them, anorexia nervosa is actually a dieting behavior which is driven by intense fear of gaining or becoming fat, where they will restrict the amount they eat. And this actually leads to somehow anorexia athletica, when they tend to like
Exercise
excessively.
to burn off the calories.
Yeah. So for bulimia nervosa, it actually involves recurrent binges and purge large amount of food in a short period of time, and it actually associates with a sense of loss of what and how much one is eating. But different from bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorders actually involves eating large amount of food in a short period of time, But what makes it different from bulimia nervosa is it does not involve purging, like removing food, like eliminate calories through vomiting, laxative dose. So there's few other eating disorders which are not mentioned, includes avoidant restrictive food intake disorder and also pica. So as mentioned earlier, we couldn't tell if someone has an eating disorder just by looking at their physical appearance or their weight alone. So it's more than just a cover of book. So few of the common behavioral signs of people suffering from eating disorders includes fasting, rigid dieting, and episode of eating large quantities of food, and also hiding food. Yeah, I know it sounds kind of strange, but like it's one of the physical signs. I mean not be physical signs, but behavioral signs, whereby the physical signs includes like marked weight loss, gain, and fluctuations as well. So from here, I'm very pleased to have Jai and Jin An to share their personal experience. So how old were you guys when you guys found that you have eating disorder? Like when did it start?
Perhaps Jai can go first.
Alright, so to recall, I think I started fasting when I was 18, but I didn't realize like I was slightly going into the eating disorder pathway until recently, like maybe 2022, yeah. So I tend to exercise excessively and I will eliminate carbs, carbohydrates, and also fats in my diet. And I also count my calories strictly and also feel guilty when I am not able to exercise or I'm not following my planned diet. And this will lead to like avoidance of social gatherings, because social gatherings we tend to eat more and eat like maybe so-called unhealthy food like pizzas, maybe macaronis, those like high in carbs and fats. And so I think this will lead to isolation. Which
It's really true.
Since you neglect yourself from going out and
hanging out with my friends.
I
am always with myself.
Similarly with Jai, I feel like I also isolated myself because whenever you go out with your friends, right, you can't just choose what you want to eat. It's like you will
follow the majority.
And usually when you go out, you want something that's more indulgent. So
as compared to those food that you usually have in home.
So you want something more indulgent. So usually those are higher in calories and higher in like the undesirable nutrient, the so-called undesirable nutrient like fats and carbs. And so you would feel like you lose control, you lose that sense of control when you go out with your friends. So you just want to avoid that, because I think for me, I think it's similar for Jai also. It's just like you are over controlling your diet and your exercise and stuff. So for me also, I was like excessively weighing myself. Like I would get up, weigh myself, drink water, weigh myself, go to the washroom, weigh myself, eat something, weigh myself again. Like I think I was weighing myself more than, I think definitely more than 10 to 20, about 10 to 20 times per
that's
day.
a lot.
Per day?
Per day, yes. And sometimes even more than that. Like basically whatever I do that I feel like would result in a weight change in weight, like eating or like going to the washroom, like I excreted some water out, so I lost some weight, and then I would just keep going on the weight to check like what has changed. And so that was actually also why, like how I found out I have eating disorder. It wasn't by myself, it was actually by my mom, because that time I remember I was about to go to a class, a baking class that I paid for already, and then in the morning I just had my breakfast, right? So usually I remember back then, after I had my breakfast, I would usually gain about 0.1 kilogram only. I still remember. Okay. Yeah, it's so absurd that like I was so obsessed. But anyway, yeah, like usually it's like increased by 0.1 only. And then that day, oh God forbid, it increased by 0.2 kilogram. So I was like, yeah, like, and then it's kind of just so absurd because like you ate, of course you would gain a little bit of weight because there's more things going to your body, right? So, but yeah, that extra 0.1 kilogram really upset me. I was like crying and then like just miserable, and I just couldn't stop myself from crying. So in the end, I couldn't go to the baking class that I paid for already, which is a waste of money. But yeah, and then my mom saw that and she was concerned, obviously, and then she was like sitting me down, like, do you think you have eating disorder? Because this is not something that's normal. Because leading up to that, I think she also saw like signs and symptoms of me, of my eating disorder. Because I also hide food, like you mentioned. Like I would hide certain food somewhere, and then so that like people don't think I'm eating it. Like yeah, and then sometimes I also hide just to eat, because I feel like it's shameful. I'm so guilty for eating. I want to just hide from everyone. Yeah, don't want to do that. But I'm all better now, no worries. And also, I'm happy that you're like, you know, on your journey now. Yeah.
And
And
you guys
then,
did really good job and like,
yeah.
at least they are all in the past.
Never mind, we'll fight this journey together.
Yes, we will.
So from you guys' perception, what reason does it cause you guys and lead you guys to eating disorder?
For me, right, it was, I think the fact that I grew up in an Asian family means that I was constantly made known of my larger frame, especially because like my siblings are actually thinner. So when we stand together, it's pretty obvious that I'm larger in frame. So my family has always made myself aware of that. I don't resent them from that because
toxic uncle and auntie.
yeah, but you know, like I don't resent them for that because it's the culture that they are brought up in.
Yeah,
it's
like
only
the
natural
older
that they
generations.
yeah. So we can't really blame them for behaving that way when it's literally their environment and the culture that they are brought up in taught them to do so. But yeah, it really I guess that insecurity has always been internalized. But for me, the trigger was a bully experience in high school. Yeah, basically I was boycotted in my class, and then and then I was called names like in Chinese we say 鸡扒, which I think how do I translate this though? It's basically 鸡扒 literally means pork chop, and so you know how pigs is like portrayed as the fat animal, something like that, I guess.
No, pig is cute.
Yeah, it's really cute, right? And pork chop is delicious.
Yes, you are delicious. Yes.
Thank you for that.
Is this something that can be aired?
We don't know if we can. We don't know if this will make to the final clip. But anyway, yeah, that was my experience. That was a trigger. But yeah, I don't think it's like one single thing that cause eating disorder. It's like
some things add on.
add on.
And it makes yourself like it influence your emotions and your thoughts, like thinking of yourself.
It just keeps stacking.
It's
and
like
at
a
one
cycle.
point-
We will think.
And at one point, it just.
Yeah. For me, I think I'm more like I want to look good like my friends, because my friends when we eat the same amount of food, they won't put on weight, but I will. I always think like that. So I always wanted to lose weight since I was in what is that called? Primary school. Yeah, I still remember when in primary school we will have the weight scale. We need to record our weight, and every girl will be like, can we don't announce my weight to the to our friends like that. So since then I want to reduce my weight, and I think the main reason is I want to look good like everybody else with skinnier bodies, and especially the ones with like skinnier thighs, skinnier arms, and also have nicer waist, because back then I don't know that different people have different kind of waist. Yeah, some people will have like a more thicker, a more like curvier waist, but some will have that hourglass style of it. Yeah.
It really comes down to genetics.
Yeah. So I think that's the main reason.
It's really true. Mm-hmm.
But like,
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
but how do you guys like get to the stage where you guys realize, oh, I have eating disorders, but like you guys move on? How you guys cope with it?
Jerry, do you want to share first?
You know, when you get, because I exercise excessively, you will get very, tired, you will lose motivation. When you think about exercise, you will be like,
You dread it.
Yeah, can I don't do this?
Like,
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Then you will start to skip one day, and then you tend to skip more and more. But back then I was feeling very guilty about it. Like,
for skipping it?
yeah, I tend to exercise every day lah, but I will feel guilty if I
Skip for one
yeah
day.
skip
just
for one day. Then my family and friends also started to notice that, oh, my emotion wasn't like, I'm not happy. And my dad did send me to a camp, like a 3 months camp. Then it was then I started, because I was forced to eat the food everyone's eating together. So I was forced to eat like the food I omitted when I'm at home. So I started to feel like, hey, this kind of food is not bad. Yeah. And I feel very happy when I eat those food, the carbs and fats. Yeah, I started to include them into my meals, and I feel more happier and gaining back my confidence when I started to build new friendship with the camp, the other people in the camp. Yeah. So it was then I feel like, oh, I'm more than just
exercising.
Yeah, exercising and eating and keeping myself in the shape that I will never get into.
It's not you never get into.
It's like it's not a
it's not a standard thing.
yeah. Everybody has different types of body. Maybe I'm just not that that standard type.
But that doesn't mean that your body's not good also. For me, I think, like I really agree with what you said. It's really just about discovering how much more life you live, how much more great experience you gain by just letting go a little bit. But it can be hard to realize that you are more than just how you look like. But for me, how I recovered was really like throwing myself into the Western culture, where it's I'd say it's a bit more inclusive than the Asian culture. Yeah, because I think generally I have larger frame, so no matter how hard I tried, like even when I had eating disorder back then, I lost like 20 pounds. It's the weight wise, I dropped a lot, but looks wise, I still look not that different. I still would be considered bigger, yeah, compared to the people who are thinner in frame. So again, it's just realizing that, it's not something that I can achieve per se. So I dived into the Western culture, where it taught me to love and embrace my body and myself for who I am and how my body is. Yeah.
I think like other than Western, it actually is like, as we talked previously in diet culture, your episode, in her episode diet culture, like episode 2, right?
Episode 2, yes.
Yeah.
Do check out if you haven't.
Yeah. So we mentioned that like China TikToks actually got huge influence over this type of body dysmorphobia. I mean, like kind of negative body image, just by doing some trends like putting coins on collarbone, something like that, like prove you're kind of skinny, I think.
Yeah.
But they actually do be a good platform to promote that like positive body image, because some of them also like promote that body image is not just looking at the frame and the size you have, but it's all about self-love.
Yeah, I think social media really is like, it can be good and it can be bad. It really depends on what you can control what you look at, right? So
Yeah.
it's
The
really
contents.
you can you need to control like the content that you're looking at to obtain like the benefits. Yeah. But it requires someone to be really conscious of like the little messages behind each post.
Yeah, so it's not like it's not like you gotta take all of the message you've seen. It just you gotta interpret it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true.
So, but when we talk about preventions and therapies for recovering eating disorders, so all psychological techniques focus on the one same thing for treating eating disorders. It is redevelop intuitive understanding of hunger, fullness, and satiety. It's like the perceptions they have on it. These three things, like hunger, fullness, and satiety, is all about eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because it's something that we all are capable of feeling. Like we know how we can feel the hunger. We can feel when we're full. Our body is constantly telling us,
Right, giving message.
yeah, giving message to us. But I think when you have eating disorder, you kind of just
Ignore it.
Ignore it. Yes, you kind of tune out
Put it
from
away.
Yeah, but it's really beautiful how we as humans intrinsically we could, we have our way of making sure that like we're eating enough, we're being healthy because we get these signals from our bodies. It's more really just about leaning in and hearing. Listening to our body.
Yeah, just listen to your body. Like they give signals and they do give message already. But if you're ignoring it, then it's gotta be like it kind of leads to eating disorder already. Cause you're not following what your body says. Like
Yeah, you're not giving what your body needs.
Yeah.
So there's few psychological therapies which were frequently used in treating eating disorders, which includes cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and interpersonal therapy. So there's few other therapies that were not usually used to treat eating disorders include family-based therapy and occupational therapy. So other than psychological therapies, we could actually go for more affordable therapies which starts from diets, which were actually included in our daily lives. And yeah, as nutrition and dietetic students, I believe this knowledge would actually help us in future. So actually for anorexia bulimia patients, there are actually some refeeding precautions. So they actually aim to promote weight gain with a relatively small energy intake at first and increase it gradually to help them adapt to an increasing intake. So for those with serious dental disease, their initial food should be fluid and it should be replaced by soft food when they are more comfortable in their mouth. For example, fruit juice and other acidic drinks should be diluted, while vinegar and extremely salty foods should be avoided.
Yep, I agree with what you said, especially regarding the increasing energy intake at small increments, because obviously if they have decreased their BMR for so long, they need time to actually adapt back to the normal intake, caloric intake. So yeah, that, and also managing the hunger, especially for bulimia patients, there might be a few approaches to help with managing and preventing overwhelming craving. For example, slow eating, intuitive eating, and mindful eating, and having regular and frequent meals with small portion of snacks, and constructing meals with a variety of food as well.
Yeah, so for the nutrients that are recommended in their diet, they are actually kind of similar as recommendation for healthy people. So for example, it should be regular, stable, and adequate amount supplied for carbohydrate, protein, essential fatty acids, and also some sort of fat-soluble vitamins as well. But for vegetarians, since they doesn't consume red meat, so they actually need higher intake of supplements for iron and zinc. Well, for bulimia nervosa and binge eating disorder patients, they aim to improve their behavior on eliminate their purging behaviors. So actually, for their recommendation for their diets it's actually kind of same as the anorexia, bulimia, but the one difference is they gotta re-establish their blood sugar levels by having regular eating pattern, and they kind of need some sort of adequate macronutrients. So
yeah, I agree with Kia Ning because bulimia nervosa and binge eating disorders patients tend to eat in a lot of calories and consume a lot of food in a short period of time, which may lead to a sharp increase in their blood sugar, which also induce increase in their insulin levels. This may affect their metabolism, and also regulating redistributing their food portion also benefits the potassium level of our body, because insulin levels is linked to potassium levels in the blood also.
Yeah, and fun fact, I mean not fun fact, but like the nutrient dense and sugar-free diets actually helps to reduce binge eating. Yeah, so they actually need some more supplement in vitamin B and vitamin C. So that's all for the recommendation for the nutrients, like their diets. So I believe it takes effort and time to overcome all of this, but I believe Jai and Jin's story meant a lot for those who need it, and the words to support where they are right now. Here, a huge thank to two of our lovely co-hosts for today for making it today, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So before we sign off, do check us out on our social media as attached as below. And if it sounds great to you, please make sure to subscribe to our INDSA podcast channel. So thank you once again for tuning in our podcast today, and we'll see you on the next episode. This is INDSA Podcast, inspiring everyone to choose the food that brings the good. Bye!